हाम्रो अनलाइन च्यानल आइक्यू ज्ञानहरू बस्नुभएका समस्त दर्शकहरूमा हृदयदेखि अभिवादन व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छौँ। दर्शकहरू, आजको बसाइमा हामी चार्ल्स एडवर्ड स्पेयरम्यानको बारेमा बायोग्राफी टाइपको लिएर आएका छौँ। चार्ल्स एडवर्ड स्पेयरम्यानलाई संक्षेपमा चार्ल्स स्पेयरम्यान वा चार्ल्स स्पेयरम्यानद्वारा बढी मात्रामा जनाइन्छ। उनी विश्व प्रसिद्ध ब्रिटिस मनोवैज्ञानिक, मनोविद र तथ्याङ्कशास्त्री हुन्। तथ्याङ्कशास्त्रको क्षेत्रमा उनी आफूद्वारा प्रतिपादित स्तरक्रम सहसम्बन्ध र्याङ्क अर्डर कोरिलेसनका प्रतिपादकका हैसियतले बढी मात्रामा चिनिने गर्दछन्। उनको यस विधिबाट गणना गरिने सहसम्बन्धको गुणाङ्कलाई ग्रिक अक्षर पी आर्याचोले जनाइन्छ। परीक्षणको विश्वसनीयता निर्धारण गर्नका लागि उनीद्वारा प्रतिपादित स्तरक्रम सहसम्बन्ध विधिलाई व्यापक रूपमा उपयोग गरिन्छ। स्पेयरम्यानको जन्म संयुक्त अधिराज्य युनाइटेड किङडमको लन्डनमा 10 सेप्टेम्बर 1863 मा भएको हो। उनमा बाल्यावस्थादेखि नै मनोविज्ञान र मनोमापनका क्षेत्रमा असाधारण प्रतिभा तथा क्षमता थियो। 19 वर्षको उमेरमा उनी ब्रिटिस सेनामा भर्ती भएका थिए। 15 वर्ष सैनिक सेवा गरे। उनले प्रयोगात्मक मनोविज्ञान एक्सपेरिमेन्टल साइकोलोजीमा PhD अध्ययनका लागि सेनाको जागिर छाडे। उनले आफ्नो सो अध्ययन ब्रिटेनकै युनिभर्सिटी अफ लेप्जिङबाट पुरा गरेका थिए। मनोमापन, तथ्याङ्कशास्त्र र प्रयोगात्मक मनोविज्ञानमा तत्त्व विश्लेषण, फ्याक्टर एनालाइसिस, मानव बौद्धिकता, ह्युमन इन्टेलिजेन्स, सामान्य बौद्धिकता तत्त्व, जनरल इन्टेलिजेन्स फ्याक्टर, संज्ञात्मक परीक्षण, प्राप्ताङ्क सिद्धान्त, कोग्निटिभ टेस्ट स्कोर थ्योरी, सहसम्बन्ध गणना गर्न उपयोगमा ल्याइने स्तरक्रम विधि, र्याङ्क अर्डर मेथड जस्ता कैयौँ उपयोगी अवधारणा एवं सिद्धान्तहरूको योगदानका कारण हामी स्पेयरम्यानका ऋणी पनि छौँ। स्पेयरम्यानका प्रमुख कृतिहरूका बारेमा भन्नुपर्दा द प्रुफ एन्ड मेजरमेन्ट अफ एसोसिएसन बिट्विन टु थिङ्स 1987, डेमोन्स्ट्रेसन अफ फर्मुलेट फर ट्रु मेजरमेन्ट अफ कोरिलेसन 1907, द एबिलिटिज अफ म्यान 1927, द नेचर अफ इन्टेलिजेन्स एन्ड प्रिन्सिपल्स अफ कोग्निसन 1923, क्रिएटिभ माइन्ड 1930 रहेका छन्। त्यस्तै अबको बसाइमा हामी कुरा गर्छौँ चार्ल्स एडवर्ड स्पेयरम्यानको इङ्ग्लिसमा पनि उहाँको बायोग्राफी हामी यहाँ भन्न चाहँदैछौँ। चार्ल्स स्पेयरम्यान वाज वेल नोन एज the pioneer of factor analysis as a statistical technique to reduce and interpret data and Spearman's rank correlation coefficient. He was the first psychologist who used mathematical models for analyzing and interpreting the complexities present in the human mind. Spearman was an English psychologist who gave the concept of general intelligence, or more commonly G factor, though which is defined intelligence as a cognitive ability that can be measured and expressed numerically. Using the technique of factor analysis, he conducted a study to prove this theory, through which he observed and inferred that people with higher intelligence level did well on series of mental aptitude tests, whereas people with lower intelligence did not perform well enough on all these tests. His most famous statistical invention, Spearman's rank correlation coefficient, is used to measure statistical dependence between two variables. Born in London, the United Kingdom on 10 September 1863, he showed an unusual talent and ability to become a psychologist from his childhood. He started his career by joining the British Army. After serving the British Army for 15 years, he resigned to study for PhD in experimental psychology. Since Spearman had no previous required qualification for the degree of his choice, he decided to study at the University of Leipzig, Germany, which had liberal entrance policies under the supervision of William. Indeed, Spearman's numerous achievements also include his association as a professor of mind and logic in place of William McDougall at University College London. McDougall got so impressed by the aptitude and capabilities of Spearman that he recommended him to teach University College London as a substitute for him. Spearman taught at University College London until he retired in 1931. He obtained the entitlement of Professor of Psychology in 1928 when a separate department of psychology was created at the university. His most influential G-factor theory served as a stepping stone for intelligence theories. He identified G as a specific quantity that came out as outcome of statistical operation. He also divided the intelligence score of a person into two categories: the one which remains constant over the period, termed as general factor, or G, whereas the other changes from time to time, classified as a specific factor. He also proposed that the G factor is composed of two different capabilities closely related to each other. He identified these two abilities as adaptive and reproductive abilities. Charles Spearman observed another factor in assessing intelligence, which he named a unique factor. Individuals who scored higher on test frequently possessed the unique factor in intelligence. Spearman's rank order correlation is the non-parametric version of the Pearson product moment correlation. Spearman's correlation coefficient P also signified product moment correlation. By RS measures the strength and direction of association between two ranked variables. Two variables are either ordinal, interval, or ratio. Although we would usually hope to use a person-product moment correlation on interval or ratio data, the Spearman correlation can be used when the assumptions of the Pearson correlation are markedly violate. However, Spearman's correlation determines the strength and direction of the monotonic relationship between two variables rather than the linear relationship between two variables, which Pearson's correlation determines. Spearman's correlation measures the strength and direction of monotonic association between two variables. Monotonicity is less restrictive than that of a linear relationship. For example, the middle image above shows a monotonic relationship, but it is not linear. A monotonic relationship is not strictly an assumption of Spearman's correlation. It can draw a Spearman's correlation on a non-monotonic relationship to determine if there is a monotonic component to the association. However, it should typically pick a measure of association, such as Spearman's correlation, that fits the observed data pattern. If a scrap report shows the relationship between two variables took and duration of his monotonic relationship. On the other hand, if, for example, the relationship appears line escaped by straightforward, you would run a Pearson's correlation because this will measure the strength and direction of any linear relationship. The researcher will not always check whether the researcher has a monotonic relationship visually. So, in this case, the researcher might run a Spearman's correlation. Measure work. The professor and measurements of association between two things, 1987. Demonstration of formulate for the true measurements of correlation, 1907. The abilities of man, 1927. The nature of intelligence and principles of cognition, 1923. And creative mind in 1930. Thank you very much for watching. सुनेर साथ दिनुभएकोमा यहाँलाई हृदयदेखि आभार व्यक्त गर्दै आजको बसाइबाट बिदा माग्छौँ। यहाँहरूको समय शुभ रहोस्। हामी सबैको जय होस्।